Amazing. Thank you, Maria Elena. Okay, well, sounds like you guys are all here. So welcome. I'm glad you've come this evening to our crisis training night. I'm Kirsten Job. I'm the Director of Student Services, and I'm glad to see you all. I am here with our wonderful Brentwood PD officers, our partners, with Sergeant Brulette and Officer King, and they are going to be doing our presentation this evening to talk about our crisis training and what we do to support our students during our lockdown time, which we have every other year. We do an official district lockdown, and so we'd like to have this night to talk to our parents about everything that we do during that. And so I appreciate you being here. We were trying to guess how many parents we'd have, and we are already over that. So we have more parents than we thought we would. So thank you for coming and being with us this evening. So our Q&A is open at the bottom there. So if you want to put questions in there, and I can either, while Sergeant Brulette is sharing our presentation, I can either answer those or I'll save them to the end if we have some themes, and then we will answer those questions at the end. So well, I will turn it over to Sergeant Brulette, and we'll get through our presentation, and we will have time, though, for those questions and answers at the end. All right. I will go ahead and share my screen. Let me go to slide. Hold on. Not quite. There we go. Okay.
All right. So, like Kirsten said, my name is Mitch Brulette. I'm a sergeant with the Brentwood Police Department. My passion when it comes to this topic is I was a school resource officer up at Heritage for a long time, for almost 6.5 years. And it was something that I really took to heart on how we can protect our students and teachers. And I will say, with the collaboration with our department and the administration with the Brentwood School District, we were able to start training, as far as going back to 2017, and continuing that training annually. So I give you guys a lot of credit to take the time to be here. Our over and under was 20 parents. I think we're at like 25. So I do give you guys a lot of credit for being here. Also, Officer Matt King, who is a school resource officer for the school district, is also here too. So please, if you guys do have questions, the biggest thing that we don't want to happen is that you leave here wondering. So how this is going to work is I'm going to break you down kind of the training we've done and talk to you guys about some of the things that we are doing with our district, and then how this drill is going to work on April 11th. So if you can go to the next slide, Kirsten.
Oh, hold on. There we go.
Okay, so why are we here? There's ed code, education code, that says that we have to be here. Every school is responsible for some sort of school safety plan. We collaborate with the local law enforcement. The next slide will show you that there's an assembly bill that was recently released. If you can go to that slide, that was recently released. And what this was done, this was Governor Newsom who put this into play, where schools are required to conduct some sort of active shooter, active killer drill every single year. What they want to do is they want to kind of make this drill the same way through from each school to each school. Some schools have taken this to the highest level and pretended like there was an actual shooter on campus. That's not how this thing is going to go. Thus, this assembly bill was put into place. So Ed Code Assembly Bill says that we have to conduct these drills. But really, that's not why we're doing it. If you want to go to the next slide. The main reason why we're doing it is because these events are continuing to happen. So this isn't something like a checkbox that the school district is doing. This is not a checkbox that we're doing as a law enforcement, your law enforcement in this community. We're doing this because these things continue to happen. And the next slide will show you that we owe it to our children and our staff and our students to do this. We need to train our staff and teachers knowing how to react to one of these incidents. And that's what I'm going to kind of go through tonight. So go ahead. So the biggest thing when it comes to school safety is they think this is it's a shared responsibility. And what I mean by that is this: everybody wants to put the responsibility on the school, and everybody wants to put the responsibility on local law enforcement. But the way we stop one of these events is before it happens. And the way we do that is a lot of times it's called leakage, where there's some sort of leakage that this is going to happen. And people always say, well, I knew something was going to happen. I should have said something. So it's a shared responsibility. So as a parent, I challenge you, like, to get involved in what your kids are doing and pay attention to their mood changes and those kinds of things, because the only way we stop it is before it does. Once this thing kicks off, all training does for it is mitigate casualties. So the way we stop it is before it happens. So we need your assistance and your play in being involved in it, or your ability to talk to your child. If they hear something, to say something. This is not snitching. This is not any of that. This is, you see something, you say something, because you have the ability to stop it. Next slide. So what we did back in October is we held a school safety town hall meeting. It was attended by somewhere around 100 and 150 people. And we talked to them about what we're doing, similar of what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. But this was our way of reaching out to our community to let them know that everyone plays a vital role in preventing one of these events from happening. Next slide. Okay, so what we've done, going back all the way to 2018 with the Brentwood School District, is back in 2018 and 2019, we did a 3-part ALICE training. All ALICE is an acronym for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. It's a program that we brought in. The reason why we brought it into our community is it has an e-learning portion, and that's why we did it. So in 2019, we brought that down, and we conducted ALICE lessons with students. And then 2021, 2022, we did critical incident response training. In 23, we did 2 district-wide drills with students. And then 24 and 25, we continued training at the school, and we went out to every single school site. So it's not like we did just a random blanket general training, is that we went out to each site to conduct training, because every school is a different, I'm not going to say tactical scenario we have to deal with, but every school has a different layout. Some of the way the gates are locked, all those kinds of things is different at each school. And then on April 11th, we'll conduct a district-wide drill with the students, and that includes staff from the Brentwood Police Department and administration from the school district. So that's how this whole thing kind of started. And again, it was meant to put into place, and it truly is for the safety. It's not a checkbox. It's truly for the safety of our students and our staff. All right, so really quick, I'm just going to kind of go through some of the training. This is not the full training that the teachers have gone through, but I want you guys to understand some of the things that we've talked about. When we did this and we put this together, we weren't trying to sugarcoat. We were trying to truly make this a genuine training. It is a tough topic to talk about, but it's something that we have to talk about, unfortunately, in the world that we live in. So the training goal behind it was just to give teacher staff knowledge and confidence to react safely and effectively to a high-risk situation. And the next slide, I know that teachers learning and they teach in learning targets. So I'll go over this with you guys. I want you to know how the police are going to respond, specifically Brentwood Police Department and what we've done in Contra Costa County, and then know how the schools are going to respond, so that if you are wondering, if a situation does happen and you're wondering why something is being done, maybe at least you'll have an idea of okay, this is what Mitch was talking about, and this is what I should expect. God forbid we're in one of these incidents. Next. Okay, so statistically, what the FBI classifies as an active shooter or an active killer is 3 or more people being killed, not including the person that's doing it. This was statistically from 2000 to 2019, 333 incidents over 43 states. It's not just, at one state, it's across the nation that these things tend to happen. The reason why we have to have training is the statistic that's not up here. And this sounds very hard to say, especially to the group tonight, is that 7 out of 10 people that are killed in an active shooter event on a school campus are killed with a headshot. So hear that, 7 out of 10 are killed with a headshot. If anybody on this webinar tonight has ever shot a gun, you know it's hard to make a headshot. So how are 7 out of 10 people killed with a headshot in a school shooter with somebody that does have little to no training? And the reason why is because we've been told for years to just get underneath the table and hide. And when we trained our teachers, that's not what we're going to do. And I'll explain to that as we go through it. All right, so what about active shooters? What is it, right? Active shooters defined as a suspect who's actively, immediately causing death and serious bodily injury, and that activity is not contained. Next slide. What do we know about them? And why schools? So high level of media coverage, low number of adult male, high number of women, high number of children, easy to create fear and panic, low level of site security, easy to fortify and barricade, and easy to research online. What I will say with this, the cool thing about our district is that if you go to the next slide, there's not a lot of maps of our schools. Actually, there's none. The Brentwood School District has not released any maps of their schools online. So if somebody was trying to research how to do this, they're not going to find it by a map. But the next slide, if I was researching how to attack a school, I would do it this way. And that's one of our schools in our district. And that's a drone that's up about 350 feet over that school. And I will tell you this, it's not illegal to fly a drone over a school, but it is suspicious. And I will tell you this, if there is a drone seen flying over the school, so if you're a parent that maybe walks your kids to school, or you're out in the neighborhood and you're driving by and you're like, why is a drone flying over the school? That is something that you need to call our department about. We will send an officer out to try to find the person that's doing it. The hard part is sometimes they're flying it from a long ways away. But I will tell you this, we have drones also, so we can send our drone up and maybe they can get in this little drone fight. I'm just kidding, but at least the drones will know that we're there. So, if you see something suspicious around the school, on your way to the school, if you're taking your kids there, report it. Let us make a decision. You're not going to bother us. We have the staffing, we have the ability to go out and investigate it. There was a call a couple of weeks ago over by Bristow for the trail, and we went out there and contacted a person, and he was a local in the neighborhood and not up to anything, but we still went out there and contacted him. So I'm telling you, if you see something that is suspicious, please call us. Next slide. All right. So in the reason why we do have training is because in an emergency situation, we don't rise to the occasion. We default to our level of training. And it's a true statement. What we told our teachers with this event is you got to have a plan before it happens. Everything from, if they're teaching kindergarten, first grade, second grade, to, teaching them how to, take their kids on a quote unquote nature walk where they're leading them off campus without the kids even knowing what they're doing. And to have a plan with the person, the classroom next to you. Every school is its own bubble, but every portion of the school is a smaller bubble. So there may be a 2 rooms right next to each other, and one room doesn't have a back door, but the other room does. So can I get my kids into that room and then out the back door and get them off of campus? What we're trying to do when we talk about training is what the next slide shows you, is that there's only 3 things that are going to happen in this event for human beings, and we're going to fight, flight, or freeze. And what we don't want to do is freeze. And that's my whole point to the teachers, is have a plan put into place so you don't freeze if this ever happens, is that you have a plan, because the kids are going to look to the teacher as leaders. And if the teachers are freezing, then what are the kids going to do? So the teachers have to have that plan put into place. And what I've seen with all the trainings that we've done going back since 2018 is the teachers come in like a little, fearful and almost like not deer in headlights, but they kind of come in like, but they leave with the confidence of, I have a plan and I know what I'm going to do. I don't think if we had an incident on a campus, I truly believe with the staff that's been through the training that they're going to be able to act in the way that they've been trained to when it comes down to it. Next slide. And it all goes back to an emergency situation. We don't rise to, we default to our level of training. That's why we do it. So going back to our community, you look at Columbine, and then the next slide will show you, I'm like, okay, that looks like Heritage, right? It's the same school. But take it even a little step farther. So Littleton, Colorado is where Columbine happened. Well, look at Brentwood, California. What's the difference between Littleton and Brentwood? We do live in a safe community, but things can happen anywhere. Parkland, Sandy Hook, all these different places, Columbine, where it all happened, it can happen anywhere. And we have to be ready, God forbid, if it does happen. Next. All right, so I'm going to get into how the police, your local Brentwood Police Department, and what we've done in the county, the training we've done to be able to react to one of these situations. All right, so there is a county protocol, and what the county protocol is if we had an incident in Brentwood, we're going to have Brentwood respond. We're going to have, if you guys don't know, the sheriff's department, their Delta station that covers Discovery Bay, Byron, Knightson, they work out of our building. So there's 5 or 6 deputies that work out of our building. You're going to have somewhere between 15 and 20 Brentwood officers working on a day shift. That includes administration and detectives and SROs and motors. But then we're going to have Oakley respond. Antioch's going to come. Pittsburgh. We're going to have them all coming to the site. CHP. They're all going to come to the direct location if there is an incident. What cops do horribly is park. I don't even think we park. We just stop and get out of our cars. So we don't need 400 cops coming to the location. What we need, the additional units that are coming all the way probably from San Joaquin to Sacramento. Everybody that's going to come to one of these events, they're going to start working on rally points and setting up ingress and egress so that we have a fluid emergency medical personnel are able to get into that location. Next. All right, so after Columbine, if you guys are on here, most of you are, I would say, are going to remember Columbine. The training back during the Columbine situation was to surround the school and then call for SWAT. This is not a SWAT event. This is a patrol officer event. So after Columbine, they came up with this cool idea of, give me 4 cops. 4 cops can effectively clear a building in a diamond formation, 1 to the front, 1 to the left, 1 to the right, and 1 to the rear. And I can move through a building and find the person that's doing this. Well, the likelihood of getting 4 cops there, this event is over in 5 to 12 minutes. So the first officer that gets on scene by themselves, and what we've trained in Brentwood is solo officer engagement, meaning they're not going to wait for a second person to get there. They're immediately going to go, because what we're finding is this: the people that commit this crime are absolute cowards. And anytime they're met with any kind of force, whether that's us, whether that's a locked door, whether that's a teacher, they give up. So we're going to bet that our training is going to beat their Call of Duty training. And our responsibility, it used to be just to stop the person that's doing this. Well, that completely changed. Now we have to stop the killing and stop the dying. So what we've done with that is this: all of our patrol vehicles are stocked with trauma medical bags. All of our Brentwood officers have been to some sort of trauma training to be able to stop the bleed so we can start saving lives. The other part of that is, if some of you are married to firefighters, we all know they're heroes, right? But they never would have came into a hot zone. Well, that's completely changed also because they're the experts in the medical field and providing medical care. So we've worked with fire to set up rescue task force, which means this: basically we'll present a safety corridor for them to get in and start working. It's a 2-to-2 ratio: 2 law enforcement or 2 armed law enforcement officers and 2 fire personnel will go into a situation to start saving lives. And then we'll set up everything, initial command, inner and outer perimeters, specialty teams. Everyone's coming: DOJ, FBI, ATF. They're all coming to one of these events. And then there's going to be, but this is not, I'm going to tell you as a parent this, and this is where parents will get very, very impatient. And I need you to understand why we do stuff like this. If a school goes into a full lockdown barricade, and we can honestly tell you as a law enforcement entity, that there is no longer a threat by a person to that school, meaning that we have ended that threat. The reason why there's going to be a delay is because we have to systematically search that school to ensure there's no secondary devices. And that's all going to be done by SWAT teams to be able to do that. So there is going to be a significant delay in getting your child back with you, because we have to make sure that that campus is 100% safe before we remove any child from that campus. And the reunification part of it is not going to be done at the school. So your students and the teachers will be loaded up in buses and taken to a place which you'll be made aware of, so that we can do a systematic accountability of getting your child back to you. Which I know as a parent, I would lose my mind with that, but that's the way that it has to systematically be done, so to we can ensure that everyone is safe when it comes down to it. Now, if the kids are able to evacuate, which we tell teachers, if they have the ability to evacuate, then to go, and they're going to be, let's say, in a neighborhood, and by some means you find your child and you decide to take them, that's completely on you. We just at some point need to be accountable for your child. So that's what we've done with our department, and the training that it goes down to it, is that we're not going to wait. We're going to go immediately, and all of our officers are expected, and the majority of Contra Costa County are training the same way, and we're not going to wait. We have to go in and stop this immediately. Next. All right, so that's solo officer in response. That's what it looks like. Go ahead, next. Contact teams, go ahead. That's the rescue task force. Who would have thought that you would have seen fire and medical personnel wearing ballistic helmets and ballistic vests? But it's a different time and age that we live in. They're going to come into a hot zone as long as we provide the necessary protection for them, so they can start saving lives. Go ahead. If you haven't seen this in our community, about last year, November of 23, we have this in our fleet now. It's an armored rescue vehicle, and all that means is it's an armored ambulance. So everything that you would see in a normal ambulance, we have the capabilities of utilizing this vehicle. It's parked at the department. Every person from CSO to the chief have been trained to drive this vehicle, so we don't have to have special people to get it out on scene. But this is a vehicle that we can immediately bring on to scene and start saving lives. It'll be at all of our downtown events. We have a lot of open air parades and concerts in the park. We have this resource, and we're going to utilize it if we need it. But again, it has onboard oxygen. It has everything that you would see in an ambulance, so that we can start saving lives. Good. The other thing that we did is we've trained all of our city employees, from waste management to the city manager, on how to react to one of these incidents. I put this picture in here of the waste management truck, because you know how valuable that will come in if they can block a roadway, so that we can immediately start getting ingress and egress in. So these vehicles, if they're out and about, and they get information that one of these events are going on, they can block a roadway very, very quickly. And that's what they're expected to do in one of these incidents. We can simply say, hey, we need the waste management trucks to block, Fairview and Sand Creek, whatever the roadway, so that we can start immediately working on ingress and egress. Next. All right, so I'm going to touch base on Uvalde, because this was, as I tell you all the great things that we've done in our community when it comes to training, Uvalde was a complete failure on law enforcement's part. But I'm going to tell you how we're not going to have one of these events happen in our community. So the first thing that happened was a leadership failure. The chief, who now was arrested in Uvalde for not failing to act. The higher you move up in rank in law enforcement, the further you move away from tactics. So when this event happened, I went and talked to our chief. I explained to him that, with all due respect, this is what it is. And he goes, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to get us all in a room, and I want to tabletop Uvalde incident, and see how our reaction and what our response would be. So he originally gave me 2 hours, then he switched it to 4 hours, and we ended up being in this room for 8 hours, and we discussed it from sergeant above. I'm not worried about our response for our police officers. I know how they're going to respond. It's the command staff that, if they're the ones that are going to be in charge of this, they have to be on the same page as what our officers would be. And that's what we accomplished that day. The biggest failure with this event that we're not going to have in our community was they waited to make entry because they didn't have a key to get into the room. I went to Kirsten and I asked her for keys. And I will tell you this, every one of our police officers in our community has a key to access every school in our district. And that includes Liberty High School also. So we're not going to have any hesitation of being able to enter a school building. The officers are expected to keep that key on their person, not to keep it in some bag that they have to go find. They're expected to have it so they can access it immediately so we don't have one of these failures. We don't have to worry about breaching the doors. We don't have to worry about anything like that or waiting for a key to get there. Is we can immediately respond because we have the key in hand. Next. Well, so that was a quick down and dirty on police response. So if you have any questions on that, please go ahead and type it in, and Kirsten and her team can monitor that. And then I'll talk about quickly about how our schools are expected to respond to one of these incidents. Go ahead to the next slide. All right, so I'm going to talk about lockout and lockdown, just so that we're all on the same page. And they're two different meanings, and I'll give you the reason why. It's self-explanatory, evacuate and shelter in place, but lockout and lockdown comes to, it causes some confusion. So when it comes to a lockout, is let's say we had a residential burglary in a neighborhood, law enforcement gets on scene, the suspect was last seen running to a school. What we will do is notify the school and have the school go into lockout. So what lockout means is this: the teachers are going to make sure their doors are locked. They're going to continue business as usual and continue to teach. Campus administration, campus yard duties and all them will help clear the campus and get everybody into a building. So if law enforcement does get on the campus and have to search for this person, everybody is off campus. And that's the basis of a lockout. On a lockdown, the reason why schools use lockdown, and this is it was a prison term. The reason why it was used in schools was way back in the 60s, down in LA, there were schools that were hit with drive-by shootings were hitting schools. So they would actually have drive-by shooting drills. And what they were told to do is to lock down, get underneath the table and hide and get below the windows. And in a lock-down drill and drive-by shooting drill, that works. But if somebody's actively hunting, that's not going to work. What we have taught our schools is if we go into lockdown and we go into, if there's no half, no soft, no partial lockdown, they're going to go lock their doors, blinds are closed, lights are off, and they're going to start working on a barricade. Now, when we first rolled out this training, I really focused on barricading the door. What I will tell you is that my focus has completely changed based on recent events that have happened. The barricade now is going to be the focus of the windows, because if the door is locked, there's no way an intruder is going to be able to get in that door unless somebody opens it. We took our SWAT team to Liberty before they tore it down. And when they tore it down, we took our SWAT team there to breach the doors. And we had a tough time breaching the doors with mechanical tools and shotgun breaching. The people that do these crimes is they're not taking the time to breach the doors. They cannot physically breach the doors. The majority of the doors in all of our schools are metal frame with metal doors. There's no flex. So they're not going to be able to pry that door open or anything to that extent. So what's happened recently in some of these events, remember, that's a sign of force and they're cowards. So they give up, is they start shooting into the windows. So what we've told our teachers is to, when you get in that position, get your windows barricaded, and then also find yourself, your hard corner is what we've taught them. And all that is get out of view of the windows. So you don't have to, if the bullet does come through a building or through a window, that it's not going to hit anybody. It's not going to affect anybody. The reason why the lights are off is it obviously blocks their views of things. The reason why the blinds are closed is so they can't physically see in there. So that's why we do those things. Next slide. All right, so let me talk real quick about the fire alarm. In case if you guys didn't know this, what we've trained our teachers to do is if their fire alarm goes off in a school, the teachers are going to pause. Unless they see an active fire outside their classroom, they're going to pause. And the reason why they're going to pause is because in some of these events, if I'm telling you they're not able to get into their classrooms, what's the easiest way to get somebody out is have that fire alarm go off. So if there's a fire alarm, the teachers have been instructed to pause, wait for a secondary alert, and do not exit into the unknown. And this is something you could take home, for your own family. Like, how many people have ever been in a movie theater or maybe a hotel and the fire alarm goes off? And what does everybody do? They just walk out to the unknown, right? But if I was planning an attack somewhere and I needed you to come out to me, what's the best way to do it is do it by a fire alarm response, right? So don't walk out to the unknown. And that's what our teachers have been instructed to do. Next. All right. So Alice, again, it's just a acronym: alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. The A with the alert. If we have the ability to give alert, it's going to be plain English. It's not going to be any kind of codes. So, hey, we got a guy in the office with a gun who's shooting. If we're able to get the alert out, a lot of times the alert is the shots that are being fired. The reason why we told teachers is teachers have independent decision making when it comes to how they're going to react to this event. So if there's a shooting in the front office and the teacher's in the back of the school and they can determine that and they can safely evacuate, then they've been told to evacuate. The only way you survive one of these events is one, remove yourself from the situation, or two, take the power back. Schools used to always be worried about accountability. It's not about accountability. It's about survivability. And that's what they've been told to do. So they have to survive this event first before they are able to react to it. So they've been told if they can leave, to leave. But they also been told if they can't leave or if they're unsure if they can leave, then don't leave. And that's when they go into barricade mode. So that's how the alert will go down. Lockdown, again, lock everything down. Doors locked, blinds closed, lights off, start working on a barricade. Information is given to teachers through Front Row. We're going to have a collaboration with the district and law enforcement and fire personnel. It'll be a unified command at one of these events. The counter measurement, I'm not asking the teachers to fight people with guns. What I am asking them to do is counter what that person is doing. And how they do things like that is by having the lights off, turning, knowing how to utilize their fire extinguisher, all those things within inside that classroom. And the last one is evacuate. The sad thing, I started with Columbine and I'll kind of finish with Columbine. 13 people died in Columbine. 10 of them were killed in the library. And in that library, they were inside of it for 5 minutes and 42 seconds. And the teacher was yelling at them to get underneath the table and hide. She started by asking, then she had to go to yelling. Dispatch, she was on the phone with dispatch, and the dispatchers told her, hey, tell the students to get underneath the table and hide. The reason why they had to yell was because those students weren't listening, because they knew they could get out from a back door in the back side of the library. Their gut told them to go, but their training told them to stay. And 10 out of 13 were killed inside that library. If they would have left, that number would have been 3, and they had more than enough time to do it. So that's why training has become such an important aspect of what we're doing for our teachers. Next. I don't know, that may be a one that would, okay. So last thing I would tell you guys as parents is talk to your kids about stuff. If they see stuff, if they hear stuff, if they hear kids talking about guns, that's enough to report it. And if they don't want to report it to a teacher or the principal or administration, have them tell you, and then you take that information and turn it in. And I promise you that we will investigate it to our fullest, because the only way to stop it is before it happens. And that's where you play a vital role in one of these events. Next. So I'll briefly touch on this. I'm going to tell you that our department has had a lot of training in the last year and a half with the FBI and their threat matrix team out of San Francisco. We've learned a ton on how to evaluate one of these threats. We have an open relationship with and a close relationship with the FBI out of San Francisco to assist us on these calls. really where parents get frustrated is some of the things we can't tell you is based on juvenile law. We would like to tell you everything, but some of the stuff we can't. The whole thing about, oh, it's not a credible threat. I know parents are frustrated with that term. Um, if we have a threat to the school that's imminent, you will know something. I will promise you that. Part of this stuff and part of the reason there's a delay in some of these events is because we are gathering information, but we have to turn it into intelligence. I'll give you one example of it. We had a thing at Heritage where a girl made a threat to or a person made a threat to the teacher. As we were investigating it, we realized we went, and this was all done through social media, and we went out to the person's house who conducted it, and they were just baffled by it, and then realized that her friend actually logged into, it was her friend who did it, but logged into her account to make the threat. And we were delayed based on that information. So as much as we would like to get that information to you as quick as we possibly can, there may be a delay just on the fact that we're trying to verify the information that we're giving, to make sure of what we're dealing with. But if there's an immediate threat, there will be some sort of coordinated alert to you as parents. Next. All right. So what should you guys do as parents? Well, you did number one, and I again thank you guys for all attending the webinar. Don't be afraid to talk to your children about this. Um, and most of you may have this, the Life 360 or another kind of tracking app, which I know our district is going to go with the no cell phone use or Apple Watches or anything to that extent. But one of the ideas is with that is Apple Tag, is throw an Apple Tag on your kids, shoes or something, so you know where they are if you need to be it. Also, a lot of the information is going to be given through Brentwood PD social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, and Nextdoor. So be part of that. I will tell you during an incident, I'm going to highlight these two things. And the reason why I highlight it, because I know you're not going to listen to me. For one, do not go to the school, which I know you're not going to listen to me. So I know you're going to go. So if you do happen to go, figure out where you're parking and think about, am I blocking emergency availability for emergency personnel to get in? You may not care at that moment, but if you really take the time to think about it, where would I park? And you know what? You could start thinking about this. We go back to training and fight, flight, or freeze. When you're taking your kids to school, look around and be like, okay, where would I park if something did happen? So you're not in the way. I don't care. Pull it up on a curb or a piece of grass. Just get it off the street so we don't have to do it. Don't call the school or dispatch. We're going to be inundated with phone calls, and we're not going to be able to get that information to you. I do ask you to be patient, which I know is going to be a very, very hard deal. But please work your best to be patient. Updated information will be given by Brentwood PD, and that includes where we're going to reunificate and where the rally points are going to be. We can't do a predetermined rally point because the shooter is the person that dictates where the rally point is. If you take the Parkland incident, that guy walked off a campus. So again, if I'm telling you that they end up in a rally point and they plan an attack at a rally point, we can't have it predetermined. So that's why we don't do that. Next. The last thing, I'm gonna have play this video just because it has a pretty good meaning behind it. It shows where you as a parent pay attention or talk to your kids about things, and if they see certain things, to report it. Again, because it all comes down to a lot of these events, there's some sort of leakage before it happens. That was it, Kirsten. You can go to the next one. Um, so both Kirsten and I's information is up there. If anybody has any questions, that they don't want to ask in this webinar, just please email me, call me. I don't care if whatever the minute question is, just ask. I will be completely transparent with you about it. Again, I don't want you guys leaving tonight thinking, okay, how is this going to work? What things are going to happen? I would much rather you walk away with the confidence that your school staff has been trained, and then your local law enforcement is doing everything they possibly can to respond to one of these incidents. So, with that being said, if anybody has questions,
Yeah, we have about 6 questions and about 15 more minutes, but I wanted to ask some of the questions that are in the chat. One of the questions is, what type of contingencies are in place for students who do not command, like take halt and freeze commands in place? Like if when, kind of like I think more of our special needs. So,
wait, say that again. I'm sorry. I'll go to the.
what type of contingencies are in place for students who do not heed commands, like halt and freeze or stay in place until the lockdown's been lifted?
Yeah, so if you're specifically talking students with special needs, this question comes up a lot, or even kids with kindergarten, first grade who may not have trouble listening. The special needs classrooms are going to have more adults to children. So the teachers, the main teacher is instructed to talk to all their aides, and everyone has a specific plan on what they're going to do. One's going to lock the door, make sure the door's locked, blinds are closed, lights off. The other one's going to deal with the students. They're all going to have a plan put into place. Do they have the ability to evacuate? Maybe, but that has to start early in the school year with going back to what I talked about with the nature walk. Is teaching them about, hey, we're going to go on a nature walk, and then continuing to do nature walks until they realize that, oh my God, if we call it nature walk, they know exactly what to do. So that's how we've kind of instructed and trained. If the teachers are uncertain that they're going to be able to evacuate, or if it's too much of a danger with their type of students, then a barricade is what they're going to do at that point.
Awesome. Okay, another one was, I think we already answered this one about how long does it take for families to be notified, which is all on all of our apps. We will be communicating from our school district on all of on Parent Square, on everything that we communicate, and then PD does as well.
And all I will tell you guys to this parents is we're never going to be able to get ahead of social media. So your main notification may be through some sort of social media platform. But remember, that is social media. So what you may get may not be exactly what is happening. So just take that as into consideration as you go through it.
Okay. Someone had a question, Sergeant Burlett, about how are teachers barricading the windows?
So with anything they have possible to utilize, so chairs, desks, whatever they have the ability to block the windows. Some classrooms, and I told the teachers that they're the king of their own castle when it comes to their classroom. Set it up to their best of their ability. One of the things that we taught them is like bookshelves. Some of them are earthquake proofed, right, and they're screwed into studs. Others are movable. So what I did tell them is, if we have to spend the $5 at a dollar store and get furniture movers and put them underneath there so they can easily slide any type of, protection over those windows. So as many things that a bullet hits, and eventually will slow down. It's physics, But the more things they can get away of those windows, or even if they, take away certain angles, it'll provide better protection for them inside that classroom.
Another question was one that you answered a bit earlier is about what point is a breach necessary, and then if the keys don't work, are you equipped with breaching equipment?
We do have breaching equipment. The problem with the doors that we have, the breaching equipment may be a little bit delayed. We do carry mechanical breaching tools in some of our patrol cars. Some of the schools have a single hinge that goes from the bottom of the door to the top of the door, or the door jamb. And the only way to get through those would be some sort of explosive breaching. We do have shotgun breaching capabilities with our department. That might be a delayed tactic. I have tested every single one of the keys, and I encourage all of our officers to test the keys, and to know which ones they are. We haven't had a failure with the key yet, so I'm not going to assume. I'm going to tell you that we should not have any failures with the keys.
Awesome. There was a question about the cell phones that you heard us talking about it when you joined the call about the cell phone, and you brought that up too, Sergeant Burlett, about the new cell phone, the law that's coming into place, and we'll be having our new cell phone policy. So we talked about processes, because a lot of people, I'm the same way with my kids. We track our kids. And so with the measure being that the cell phone policy is that phones are off and in their backpacks and during the school day. So with safety being a critical piece of the law, that if the safety is one of the caveats in an emergency situation where an adult says you can have your phones, then this would be one of them for sure, that would be allowed. But you may not always be right near your backpack, right? Any time during crisis, if the cell phone law was in place or not. So one of the great ideas is to have an Apple Tag. That's what came up from some parents and some staff members that mentioned that with your child. It could be that you have it in their shoe, their backpack, their coat, something on your child, if that was something that you were looking to be able to obviously track your student. So that's an idea. But in an emergency situation, we would absolutely allow our children to have their phones on, and be able to get that and engaged if they had their phones with them, for sure. So hopefully that answers that one. And looking for a couple other questions here that see ones we can answer. You were asking about, someone asked about what's going to happen on April 11th with the lockdown drill. The lockdown drills are done, something that they've been practicing. The students have been having lessons that they've been working on for they still have 2 more weeks until the drill, 10 more days, but they've had lessons that they practice. They actually practice these lockdown drills, and they are practicing just what we talked about. They'll say this is a lockdown drill. They're not in any way, there's no threat. In fact, we have never had any kind of a practice where we act like there's actually a shooter of any kind. There's not. We will go by the classrooms, make sure that they're practicing a lockdown, and that is it. There's not any kind of a scary threat. We're not walking by with making any kind of scary noises or anything like that, but they do practice locking down, and then we lift the lockdown as soon as we know that everyone has practiced a lockdown. Anything else you wanted to say about that, Mitch?
No, just that the fact that we will have at least one officer on each campus, just to assist with administration. So don't be alarmed if you do see that. It's just another way of collaborating to ensure if a teacher has a question, or that we can be there to help answer it. But then also to be able to interact with the kids, and kids in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade and leading up all the way to 6th, 7th, 8th and going into high schools, they all are aware of this event. They're all afraid of it. A lot of them, I'm sure you guys have talked to them. A lot of them have plans already. This just solidifies if we're there to assist the school district and the administration that we can answer questions with them and let them know, like, if there is an incident, we're going to be there. We are going to be there. We're going to continue to train. We're going to continue to do that kind of stuff. So we're being proactive. You go back to that Assembly Bill 1858, it says by June of 2025, but we've been doing this since going all the way back to 19. It was COVID, I think, was the only year we didn't do it. So we've been proactive with our response to one of these events.
And there's a question here about how are teachers, I know we mentioned this during the presentation, but how are teachers first alerted of if there were the lockout or lockdown drill where they're alerted from our intercom system. But if there were actually an active shooter, there could be multiple ways. It could be like, Officer Mitch was saying, it could be because of the actual active shooter would be you would hear it. It could be that if we actually knew, if we were aware of it, we would say there's a shooter and where it is. We would actually say exactly what's happening. We're not going to have any kind of special code. We've always been very clear that if we had that, we would say what is happening so that we could definitely enact our processes. So that is what we would do if we had a lockout or lockdown. We definitely, we've had lockouts and lockdowns, and we are sharing that information quickly and accurately with our staff. And so we have, thankfully, a nice intercom process that is clear, and it shares that information into our classrooms and outside in our campuses. And so we're able to share that information quickly.
And I'll just hit on that real quick. So when it comes to the alert, the reason why we don't use codes, we could have the best staff and every staff knows exactly what the code is. Like if it's a code red, knows what to do. But what if you were there picking up your child for an appointment and you're like, what the heck is a code red? So that's why we use plain English. The other question I get with that is, don't we tell the person that's doing this that we know that they're there? And I want them to know that we're there. Hell yeah, we do. So that's the reason behind it, is there's no codes. It's plain English so that there's no miscommunication on what the event is that's happening at that moment.
And then somebody asked how often PD is doing training for these type of events.
Yeah, so with that, I would say I wish it could be more. I really do. But we are training annually. And then what our sergeants have recently been doing is more of a patrol team training. So they'll get it multiple times throughout the year. And it could be everything from building clearing to response. There is a full scale exercise that's happening in June that we will participate in. And it's an active assailant hosted by, it used to be, it's a grant that's hosting this training that we're going to participate in and test our officers' abilities. But to answer your question, it's annually, and then more specifically, the sergeants are being tasked to more of a, let's say quarterly training of some sort of building clearing, breaching training response to that, checking the gear, making sure we have all of our stuff in hand. So that's the best answer I can give you. I wish it could be monthly, but it's not.
Thank you. Okay. We have a couple more. I don't think there's any more here that haven't been answered yet. There's some have pretty long questions. Oh wait, hold on. If during the lockdown drill, students have PE, how will the drill happen for them? So they practice that just as they can go inside, they have to go in the gym. They've been practicing that as well, just like they do during other emergency drills. So they would go into the gym, they would go wherever they've been practicing that they would have that. So if we had indeed a real crisis, they've been practicing where they would go. So we've practiced over the years that if there were a real crisis, you pull kids into wherever the safest location is. Doesn't matter if that is your student of record or not. So in that case of it being a PE, they would go into the gymnasium, most likely, depending on the school. Okay, I think we have, and some of them have longer questions. I will need to take some time and respond to those if I don't have those. But if you can definitely reach out to Sergeant Burlett or Officer King or myself, and we'll be happy to respond to you. And thank you so much. Like Sergeant Burlett said from the very beginning, you guys are already winning because you're here. And thank you for your time. And you definitely, that's why we share this information ahead of time. Want to just give you that heads up, and that's why we do this, and why we practice. And we're so grateful to our partners at Brentwood PD to work with us and doing this for a long time. So thank you guys. All right,
Yeah,
everyone
thanks,
have a
guys.
good night.
Like I said, 35 people showed up, so kudos to you guys.
Yes, way more than we thought. Good job.